Joe and I were talking about how the Democratic Party is pretty well screwed right now across the state of Arizona. Even though they're holding the statewide seats, I think that was really more of a pushback against MAGA statewide than it was an endorsement of the Democratic agenda.
Yeah, getting out-registered right now by the Republicans, 9-1.
Yeah, really bad. However, did you happen to see that? You remember when they started that party, the No Labels Party?
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the third largest registration. Affirmative registration. So right now in Arizona, Republicans have just over 1.6 million registered voters.
And you've got your Democrats.
They're at about 1.27-ish million registered voters.
And then you're going to say No Labels.
Is the third largest registration, but I would say it's a little behind.
And then Libertarian, then Green, then you've got Other.
Other is actually the second largest numbered. Those would be the unaffiliateds. That's me. Mm-hmm. I don't register as anybody's party, which also means in Arizona I don't get to vote in the primaries.
Unless you pick the party. You can only pick one side or the other.
I got to pick one of the loser parties.
Yes.
Okay, great. Makes me feel like I'm included. Oh, look, my voice is for sale. Joining us right now is Paul Johnson. He's a former Phoenix mayor. You may remember him. He was the chair of the No Labels Party, but not anymore. He said, I don't want to be the chair of the No Labels Party any longer because No Labels decided to give themselves a label. Mayor Johnson, great to have you. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Why did you guys...
thanks for having me on.
Why did you change your name? Was it a branding issue?
Well, I didn't change my name, although I probably should change my name for a branding reason. But we changed the name of the political party. We polled our members. Let me give you a little history. No Labels nationally was going to run a presidential candidate in the last election that was going to be an independent. For whatever reason, they opted not to do that. But they had these party relics that were left over throughout the country. In Arizona, they weren't able to get rid of it, and they finally had a court case with the Secretary of State where the Secretary of State was saying, hey, you have to open up all of your primaries. At the appeals court, they lost that. And when they lost it, they just don't have the ability to run a local organization. So I had a conversation with them, and they handed the party over to myself and a group of people who had run the open primary system. I don't know if you recall, but on the last ballot election cycle, we put on the ballot what I consider to be the gold standard, which is to eliminate partisan primaries and have the primaries open where any candidate can run, kind of like what you have at the city level. And what that does is it forces candidates to have to talk to one another in any event. Our goal is to open up the party to independents and unaffiliated, not only voters, but candidates. And to do that, we thought that go poll our members, but our members overwhelmingly like the name of the Arizona Independent Party. And that name was just approved by the Secretary of State a couple of days ago, and that's going to be the name that we're going to use.
Talking with Paul Johnson, former Phoenix mayor and chair of the newly minted Arizona Independent Party. No Labels candidates, they've already filed to run for Superintendent of Public Instruction. You've got State Treasurer and the Arizona House. What's the strategy look like for the upcoming midterms? Are you recruiting candidates right now?
Yeah, so I'm out talking to candidates all around the state. I've been going to entrepreneur organizations, business groups, leadership groups. I've even gone out to colleges to speak to them. And then we have quite a few people that are just calling in on their own. The old rules, the way that it was set up, if you decided to run for statewide office 6 months ago, if you wanted to run as a Republican, you needed 6,000 signatures. If you wanted to run as a Democrat, it was about 6,000 signatures. If you wanted to run as an independent, it was about 45,000 signatures. Now, that was done on purpose as a means to try to keep independents out because independents are the largest registered group, and they're kind of afraid of that unaffiliated voter. So what this party structure does, is it allows those voters, independents and unaffiliated, to be able to run and to have to get an equivalent amount of signatures to what the Democrat and Republican Party does. Under the old system, it was impossible for an independent to get on the ballot. But now with this party, independents actually have a chance.
So what's the, Paul Johnson, former Phoenix mayor and chair of the Arizona Independence Party, what is, Independent Party, excuse me, what is the platform then of the party? How is this different than the Republicans and the Democrats? And then how much of an acolyte to that party or how loyal to the party platform do I need to be?
We have a statement of 14 beliefs, and I could go through all of them with you, but let me kind of give you the basics of what I see as it being important in this party. It's like if your house is burning down, right? You're inside your house, it's on fire, and out on the street are these two people whose job it is to save you. And instead of them coming in and saving you, they're standing out on the curb arguing about who lit the match. The single biggest issue here is we have real serious issues to work on, and instead we're focused on who's to blame, grievances. Part of that comes about because of the way that a primary system works today. When I ran for city council the first time many years ago, I think it's like 25 years old, I ran an open primary. And so to run, you had to go knock on Republican doors, Democratic doors, independent doors. And of course, Democrats would tell me about their local school or their park. Republicans might tell me about their business. But it wasn't that difficult to understand how both of those things were tied together. What happens in a partisan primary, especially with gerrymandering, is that these people go out and they run. I could do the math for you, but they talk to less than 8% of the public who will actually vote in their partisan primary. And that group of people tend to be more grievance driven. And by the way, the biggest grievance they have is they hate the other side. Mm-hmm. The Democrats hate the Republicans and the Republicans hate the Democrats. And so that becomes their main flag. And then because the district is stacked, they never have to run in a general election. So they never even talk to someone in the other party. They never have to talk to independents. Part of the key here is to force them to have to go back and address those independents and unaffiliated voters. Today, we're in a world where you have to choose between MAGA or woke. And the answer is that's just not where the public is. The public is much broader than that. The public, you watch Republicans on immigration. They want to see us focus on the rule of law, that we shouldn't be allowing people to come across the border illegally. Democrats, they think that the rule of law is that you should have to honor people's human rights and that you should have to treat them with respect and they should have a right to a trial. I can tell you what the public wants, both. They want both. They want the rule of law on both sides. They want to make certain that the border is being enforced, but they want it to be done humanely. But we're being left without that choice. Everything is binary, everything. So you can be pro-labor or pro-business, or you can be pro-business or pro-education. You can be pro-God or you can be pro-human rights. Well, here's what I would ask you is, how can you be pro-labor without being pro-business? How can you be pro-business without being pro-education? And you think God doesn't support human rights? The answer here is it isn't binary. It's just that the partisan system has made it that way. Now, we have an answer. And the answer is a party that will help people who are unaffiliated become candidates and to give those voters a right to have a say. That will at least force the two parties to recognize they need those independent votes and they can't keep gravitating to the two ends. And if they do, our candidates are going to win. My job is to go out and get those candidates.
Chair of the Arizona Independent Party and former Phoenix Mayor Paul Johnson. We're definitely going to catch up with you more down the road, talk with you about open primaries, and as you recruit some candidates, we'd love to catch up with you again down the road. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for watching the Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.